Okay, hi. So today I want to talk about psychological versus physiological. And this drives me crazy, but there's a lot of people who say, oh, well, it's all in your mind, chronic fatigue syndrome, fibromyalgia, pain, nerve sensations. If people can't see the pain, meaning you're not limping from MS yet, or they can't see the tremors from Parkinson's, or they can't see the arthritis or whatever. I mean, arthritis is more well known, so people accept that. But if they can't see the condition, people often think, it's in your mind. You're being lazy, or I don't see it, or how can you feel that bad? You look okay. So, you know, but then there's all this talk about mind-body medicine and how the mind can heal itself and the mind can attract, the law of attraction, and the mind can attract what it wants, and all these different things about the power of the mind, which are also true. The placebo effect and the nocebo effect are a real thing, right? So if somebody doesn't believe that healing is possible, they're not going to heal. If somebody does believe it, that's placebo, and they're given a sugar pill, all these wonderful things happen. So the power of the mind, there's no doubt, there's definitely a mind-body connection. But on the other hand, conditions like these are not all in your head, and you can't just think them magically away with the mind. So thus becomes the conundrum, is it in your mind? Does your mind have control over solving this problem or not? And if your mind does have control over solving the problem, why is it not doing it? Why would your body want to be in pain? Why would it want to be experiencing this condition? Why can it not think it away? If it has the power to, why is it not doing that? So these are the questions that I, myself, and many people with chronic illness struggle with often. And other people don't understand. They simply do think it's either all in your mind. People realize that cancer is a real condition and it's not all in your mind, right? And they realize other conditions like the flu, it's not all in your mind, right? So these are physiological conditions. So they don't think your mind can do anything to cure it, but that's false too. Your mind can take care of those problems, not take care of them or not make you not get the flu or not get cancer, but definitely help in your recovery. So the mind is there to aid. It's definitely maybe can't do everything, but in certain situations and in unique individuals, it has and it can. So they're using their mind more powerfully, than you are at this point. So I just want to give a little story and an example why I'm doing this video today. So my son, this morning, I gave him him and my daughter, a handful of dried white mulberries, okay, with some almonds. Now normally I give them almonds and raisins if they want a little snack. But today I had these white mulberries and they look gross. They look like all these little bumps all over them, and they look kind of brown because they're all dried out, and they look, like yucky. And he's like, ew, what are these? What are these? Yuck, I don't want to eat them. And I'm like, oh, they're good. They're dried fruit. You really like them. And he said, no, it looks like poo. It's disgusting. It's gross, right? And my daughter puts one in her mouth and she's like, it's good. And she's, eating them up. But my son was stuck on it. He's like, no, ew, ew. And he's like making this face, and his face is getting all like distorted, like as if I had put like literally dog feces in front of him. He was having a fit, Think of the food that your child hates the worst, whether it's spinach or a certain vegetable or whatever it is. And this was his reaction to these little dried mulberries. So I said to him, you're gonna try one. I want you to just try one. You have to get over that mental barrier. Just try one. If you don't like it, you don't have to eat them. And he's like holding it up like it's a worm, right? He cannot get over the psychological aspect of putting this in the mouth. So I said, well, if you don't try one, you can't have any more, nothing more to eat until you try one. Just because I like to expose my kids to anything, to things. So I'm watching his reaction. He puts it in his mouth. His eyes literally start to water. His face reddens. His eyes are watering. He gags. He gags like a real gag reflex as he's chewing this thing. His eyes are watering. His face is clenched. He is gagging like a real gag. Totally, you couldn't make this up. And he swallows it and he's like drinking the water and get me water, okay? So I'm looking at this child and I'm thinking, this was all in his mind. Like, this is a piece of dried fruit. It tastes like candy. He did this. He caused this reaction to happen. He literally caused, his mind literally caused a physiological response in his body, a real body response, right? His eyes were watering. He gagged. He had a gag reflex. He was clenched up. His face was red. I mean, it was like he was literally eating a piece of poo. So he did that to himself. He didn't even taste whatever was in his mouth. Whatever was in his mind was much more powerful than whatever was into his mouth. And I'm looking at him and my daughter's looking at him. She's like, they're good. They taste like cotton candy. Like, they're delicious. And he just was like, oh, I can never eat another one of those again, right? So he had it in his mind in the beginning. It actually caused 3 physiological responses that I saw: the eyes watering, the red-faced, the clenched up, and the gag reflex. And so whatever was going on in his mind, it completely like did that. So you can understand. So I was just shocked, and I'm thinking to myself, how much of my mind is causing my illness? Like, how much of your mind is helping these responses, happen? So if you expect pain, if you expect to wake up and feel pain, if you expect to have these symptoms, if you're so conditioned, that was only one time for him, right? So now I tried to give him another one and he was like, oh, right? So what I'm saying is, over time, if you wake up every day and you are in pain, then every day when you wake up, you expect to be in pain. So it's a circular vicious cycle where your mind is playing a role. And what's happening is, I did a video on neuroplasticity and the neuroconnections, and how, a connection might be far out here, but the more and more it gets used, your connections of your synapses